Coming up on Made in Virginia, we're going fishing. First to Virginia Beach for some reel manufacturing with Seigler Fishing Reels. And then we'll head over to Farmville, Virginia to see Yak Attack create kayak fishing accessories. Production funding for Made in Virginia is made possible in part by the Virginia Foundation for Public Media, supporting public media initiatives throughout Virginia, and by at Atlantic Union Bank, we believe that Made in Virginia means something special, something unique. After all, Virginia is where tradition meets technology, where hard work combines with innovation, where artisans, entrepreneurs, small businesses, and corporations take business to the next level. We're there every step of the way as champions of Virginia businesses and as a proud supporter of Made in Virginia and Virginia Public Broadcasting. Seigler Fishing Reels produces some of the best, top-of-the-line fishing reels on the market. They sell their reels around the world, but are mostly supported by local fishing and tackle shops in the United States. Founded by a professional cyclist after he retired at age 31, Seigler Fishing Reels started with the desire to design a better reel and has grown into a business that makes 500 to 1,000 reels per month.
It wasn't anything planned. I was, like I said, a rider, and as you're a rider, you're always tinkering with your parts and tinkering with your bike, and mechanics don't like that. But you're always like, oh, I can do this to make it a little better. Why does that rattle all the time? And that always drove me crazy. So during the process as a pro rider, I started developing products and parts for bikes. As I got out of racing, I went and moved out of the Chesapeake Bay to get away from it all. Lived on the bay, was fishing all the time, and we were fishing one day and had some issues with reels. And me being a tinker, I'd take them apart. So it started as I think I could make a better reel. And it started with little small steps. I went overseas first, totally opposite of everybody else. Everybody else starts in America, goes overseas. Started overseas, got there. Developed a couple reels, and they were still rough. They weren't right, and they were like, it's going to be right. QC was impossible to follow, but they started just selling the designs and the models out the back door, and I got pretty irritated and pulled it all stateside. So then I bought one machine. I actually bought two machines, a mill and a lathe. I had to learn to run them. It was a challenge, but YouTube saved me. We've kind of gotten to where we are now. Now we have 10 machines. We've gone from the northern neck to Virginia Beach, and we have a new facility here. It's pretty exciting, and we're now starting to scale our growth.
Seigler Fishing Reels are designed to be simple, powerful, light, easy to use, and built with the best quality parts. All the parts that are not made in-house are outsourced using American companies, including screws, washers, bearings, and stainless 316 aluminum fasteners. They use aluminum fasteners to prevent corrosion. They offer a lifetime warranty on all of their fishing reels, and 95% of each reel is cut and machined in their shop.
Some of the other parts that come from Virginia are some of our stainless shafts. We get that done in Kilmarnock, Virginia. Some of the other things that, like the packaging, we get that done in Richmond between the box and our canvas bag. And then everything else just US made. We just want to know exactly where our stuff is coming from, so that's reliable. We have relationships with these companies that we get these parts with, so we know who we're talking to. We've seen their face. It just helps us back up our own product even more.
Quality control is why we make it. Every part has a story, every part has a reason, every part, you got to know why you're making it. Everybody here at this shop is a fisherman. They know that every part is a fish could be caught or a reel that we're making, and if you're making a part that's a lifetime part, like something that's gonna last, we have a lifetime guarantee, that I can't trust somebody else. I can't trust that if they say it's this material 6061, how do I know without doing a metallurgist test? Instead, I know where I get my materials. I get it from a foundry. That foundry is US. It's coming from locally. Every piece of it, I've had to take it in-house. There's a couple pieces I might get a first operation done outsourced, but it's still in the US. But majority of that reel, 95%, is done here in our little shop in Virginia.
The first part of the process is designing the reels. They then receive the raw, pre-cut American-made aluminum.
Manufacturing a fishing reel starts with raw material coming in from billet or blocks. We get them pre-cut now. We're buying in volumes that they'll pre-cut for us. We take it from that place to one of our mills or lathes, and we'll begin the operations on each part.
The parts are then programmed into the machines. Cut times on the machines can range from 30 seconds to 3 hours, depending on the part. They use a CNC machine mill and lathe to cut their parts.
Most parts are 2-ops, so that means you do one side and then the other. And then some parts are 3 and 4 operations where you'll flip it over several times.
Once the parts are cut, they are sent through quality control. Then the parts are deburred by hand to remove sharp edges from the machining process.
Then from that point, we put them into a tumbler, which just generally just takes all sharp edges off of a fishing reel. Worst thing you ever want is a fishing reel to have a sharp edge and cut a fishing line. That would be a problem.
Once they are tumbled, some parts are sent out to get anodized, which protects the parts from corrosion.
You have aluminum parts that we machine, and then they need to have their color. And then the anodizing is also the process of giving it corrosion resistance. So we'll send that off to Roanoke. We use Global Metal Finishing. And then depending on what model they need a specific color, like one of our models is black, and then you have the option of blue, red, or silver accents. And then most of the models have what we call a smoke finish, or it's gray gunmetal, and those also have the blue, red, or silver accents. So it needs to get anodized for the corrosion resistance and for the color.
When the anodized parts return, they are put through another quality control. Then the logo is lasered into the main case and preset knob. The lasering takes 8 to 10 minutes. Then all the finished parts move into the assembly area. The hand assembly process takes 20 to 25 minutes per reel. Starting with the main case, they assemble the clicker and the gear cover.
So with the main case, you'll want to assemble the clicker, which is what produces the sound if a fish is pulling drag. The gear cover, you'll have grease on the inside, and that just helps with the corrosion resistance, or if salt water gets inside the reel, it will beat it up and prevent it from sitting inside the reel.
The spool is assembled and put into the main case.
So the spool, you have your spool shaft. It has a collar. You're going to want to put a dowel through that. You have your spool bearings, outboard and inboard, carbon fiber drag washer that we grease. Some companies use dry, but we like to grease ours with Tef Gel. It's this amazing marine grease that has a fluorocarbon polymer inside of it.
Then they move to the side case, grease it, and add bearings.
And then you have your side case, which we also use more Tef Gel. You'll put all your bearings in there, press in a couple dowels for our secondary anti-reverse system. So we have an anti-reverse bearing and then an anti-reverse pawl, or dog, some companies call. And that just prevents your handle from going backwards.
Then the main gear with the shaft is installed. Then they add the crank arm onto the shaft on the side case.
And then after you have those pieces, you'll take the side case and the main case assembly with the spool and put those together with 3 fasteners.
They add the drag lever and preset knob.
And then you have your drag lever and preset knob, which is the fine-tuning and adjustment for setting your drag.
They install the foot onto the main case. Finally, they add a rod foot and clamp, which completes the reel. Then they do a final quality control on the finished reel.
We're looking for, is the reel producing enough drag? Does the reel have free spool, which allows you to drop down? We're looking for any other imperfections. Is there a nick? Is it missing anodization somewhere on the reel? Are the gears meshing? Is the reel smooth? Just any imperfections that where if somebody was out on the water, would that reel fail? Which we just can't have out there.
Each reel is then hand engraved with its respective serial number. Then they are degreased and cleaned. They are packaged in a canvas bag with the make and model and a signature of who inspected the reel.
So each reel has a serial number on it, and it's hand engraved with just a good old-fashioned hand engraver. You'll see their shaky number, but we know who made that reel. There's only 4 different people that build them in here, and it's their last touch that it's human did this. You know, yeah, we could put it on a nice laser engraver and burn it into the reel, but I like the touch that it was, I know who it was. I know how he makes his 7s. I know how he makes his O's. I want to know, a lot of customers want to know who built that reel, so putting a face to the product, it's nice.
Finally, the reel is boxed up and ready to ship out. Siegler Reels continues to grow and innovate in Virginia by making fishing reels by anglers for anglers.
I grew up in Richmond. I had offers to go to some other states. We had like Florida made sense for fishing. North Carolina made sense as well. Liked the state. But then it came back that we started this company out in a little town in the northern neck in Burgess, Virginia, and that's right in this middle part of the Chesapeake Bay. We started getting to the point where we're scaling and we're growing, and during that process we started seeing that workforce was an issue. Resources is an issue. Moving to the beach, it came down to Richmond or Virginia Beach, and for where we're going in the future, Virginia Beach makes sense. It's you can fish inshore, you can fish offshore, you can fish freshwater, you can fish saltwater. Ultimately, it was a team decision. Everybody in the shop came together, and we've been studying it for quite some time, and it just made sense. So we're pretty excited to be here. We support our local mom and pop fishing shops. You can go online, see our list of retailers. We've got about 150-ish in the U.S. Internationally, we've got some distributors as well, about 8 of them. So they're, from Japan to Europe to, wow, yeah, a lot of places, Australia. It's all over. So it's kind of interesting. A little teeny reel company has reels in Japan. People in Japan want to buy reels.
Now, we're going to head upriver to Farmville, Virginia, to see how Yak Attack creates kayak fishing accessories. Founded in a garage in 2009, Yak Attack has quickly grown into a leader in the kayak fishing industry. The company specializes in manufacturing kayak fishing gear and kayak rigging that are robust, innovative, and easy to use.
So kayak fishing has been around for a long time. I know people who were fishing out of kayaks 20, 30 years ago, but it was really late 90s, it really started to kind of become a thing. And then the late 2005 to 2008, 9, 10, somewhere in there is when it began to be something that basically most people who were fishing by then knew what kayak fishing was. So since then, now it's hard to really find anybody that doesn't know what kayak fishing is if they're in any kind of an outdoor sport like that, and is really, I guess, on the cusp now of kind of becoming a mainstream hobby. So when we first got into kayak fishing, basically as participants in the sport, but in particular, we were fishing for striped bass under bridge lights at night. and there were power boaters around. So you don't want to get run over. You know, kayaks sit really low in the water. So me and my friend Bob made this like 4-foot tall light pole with a LED dive light glued in the end of it. And at the time we didn't have a business and didn't have any ambitions of having a business, but our buddies that we were fishing with started asking, you know, if we could build them one, and one thing led to another, and finally there was enough there, we were like, well, let's start a little hobby business and see where it goes. From there, it was just a matter of identifying another need, taking the, you know, again, the whatever little bit of money we made and just constantly reinvesting it, and that went on for years. And even now, a significant portion of the money that we make goes back into the company, developing new products. And I want to say we're up to, it's probably, I'd say 10 or 12 major product families and several hundred SKUs. So Yak Attack started in my buddy's basement. And from there, we moved to my garage. And then from there to a 3,000 square foot building in Farmville, Virginia. When we grew out of that, we looked all over and ended up finding this property in Burkeville, which is where we are now. In the beginning, it was a 9,000 square foot building. We rented about 2/3 of it, and eventually all of it, and then another building, and then another building. And currently in Burkeville, over about 1 square mile, we have 3 different buildings for about 20,000 square feet. But with all of the new products, with all the growth, we're literally busting at the seams. I mean, you can barely move, much less work efficiently. So we're in the process now of planning to move to a new facility back to Farmville, which is about 15 minutes away from our current facility, into a 68,000 square foot building that we think will hold us for hopefully at least the next 5 years or so.
The company prides itself in creative design, unique problem solving, and a lifetime warranty on their products. One big advantage over their competitors in the market is they make their own molding for the products they develop. Yak Attack started with one item and has expanded their brand into hundreds of products. Their biggest advantage over their competitors in the market is that they are in control of just about every step in the manufacturing process, ranging from designing and making their own tooling and molds to injection molding in-house. By being in control of so many steps in the process, they are able to have higher control of the finished product.
So we want a place where we make things. We want a place where people can come learn how to make things. We think that being just consumers might not be the most sustainable thing. And then from a business standpoint, we control the quality. We control the tooling. We control the supply chain. You know, you have a problem with a quality problem with a product, and your entire season's inventory came in on one shipment. You've got some tough decisions to make about, are you going to ship this, or are you going to rework it, or what are you going to do? Because for some companies, not taking that container can be the difference between staying in business and not. And we don't want to be forced to make those kind of decisions. So controlling our manufacturing, controlling the quality, that's really important to us as well from a business standpoint.
Yak Attack's Gear Track is a T-slot track that can be surface mounted to a kayak, boat, or any surface you want to mount accessories to. Many Yak Attack accessories have a T-bolt that attaches smoothly and securely to the gear track.
So our track system is called Gear Track, and basically what you have is a T-slot track that's surface mounted to a kayak, a crate, wherever you want to. Some people put them on coolers. So it's attached to a surface, and then our accessories have a T-bolt threaded into the bottom of them so that you slide the head of that T-bolt into the track, you tighten it down, and you've got quick, easy on, easy off configurability. On kayaks, that's really important because you may want to have a fish finder in this location for today, but tomorrow you might be trolling offshore and you want to have a rod holder there. So it just makes the kayak really configurable.
The process begins with a customer's order. They receive raw aluminum in 12-foot lengths.
We'll order the raw materials from our suppliers here in the U.S., and we'll get that raw product in. This product comes in a 12-foot length, and it'll be delivered to us in pallets of this product. So we store this product until we need it, then we'll retrieve it, then we'll start the manufacturing process, and we do that by a work order process, obviously.
The aluminum is then cut into the proper gear track size.
And this piece of track, that 12-foot section, will actually be cut to the desired length. We actually sell this product in not only 12-inch lengths, but also 9-inch lengths, and for our OEM customers, even smaller lengths.
They use a CNC machine to mill the track and drill holes. They are then cleaned and shipped out for anodizing. This is an electrochemical process that puts a non-corrosive protection layer on the gear track. When the gear track returns, it is inspected for quality control, packaged, and shipped out to their customers. The Zuka 2 fishing rod holder attaches to your kayak, boat, or other watercraft with YakAttack's lock and load mounting system.
So the Zuka 2 is a fishing rod holder. And what's unique about the Zuka 2 is that you can hold either spinning rods or bait casting conventional rods securely within it, but it has no moving parts. There's actually geometry built into the rod holder that secures them. And the way we make that, it's also injection molded. So, basically we heat up pellets till a liquid, inject it into the mold, it cools down and it pops out. And the mounting system that the Zuka 2 is on is called the lock and load mounting system. It's one of the most unique products that we've ever made, and it's just a really easy squeeze to adjust kind of system. Easy on, easy off, but super secure.
The Zuka 2 is created through injection molding.
So injection molding is one of these processes that on the surface, it's very simple, but there is a tremendous amount of science behind it. It all starts with material prep. So the material, particularly, we use a lot of nylons, and particularly nylons, which absorb moisture even from the air, you have to dry to a really, really dry condition. So the first step for nylon is anywhere from, say, 8 to 24 hours, depending on the material and the type of dryer you use, is to get every little bit of moisture out of it.
They start by using an auger to move plastic nylon pellets into the machine. Then they heat up those plastic nylon pellets slowly through the machine into a liquid resin between 540 and 565 degrees.
Basically, it's like a big auger that rotates and feeds the material down this barrel, is what it's called, an injection mold. It's the tube that the auger's inside, and that barrel has heating elements on it. So you start with one temperature and there's different zones, and it progressively gets hotter. And what happens is you start with the fully crystallized, rigid material in pellet form, and little by little it becomes more and more molten until finally, by the time it gets to the nozzle, which is the very end of the barrel, which is where it injects into the actual mold, it's at a viscosity that you can mold it, and it's carrying enough heat that you can mold it. Because as soon as you inject it into the mold, well, immediately the mold starts to cool the material down.
The liquid is injected into a mold. This process is called a shot.
You collect the right amount of material, which is called the shot, and then the barrel suddenly moves forward really rapidly and injects all of that into the cavity, which is the part of the mold that forms the part. And immediately the material starts to cool. You've got cooling water running through water jackets inside the mold. It immediately starts to cool, and while it's cooling, you're holding a tremendous amount of pressure against the plastic because inside the cavity it's cooled, but at the nozzle it's still molten, and as it cools it shrinks. So you're holding all this pressure, it's called pack pressure. You're holding all this pressure so that as it shrinks, it can take more material in until finally the gate, which is the small orifice where the material flows into the cavity, the gate freezes off. Freezing off meaning the material there solidifies. At that point, you can't pack any more material in, and you just hold it there so that it holds its shape, it finishes cooling, and then the mold opens up. The ejector pins, which are, if you ever look on a plastic part on one side, sometimes you can see these little round like witness marks. Those are the pins that are used to push it out of the cavity. So the ejector pins come forward, knock it out of the cavity into a bin, and then the mold clamps up and it starts all over again.
The Zuka 2 tube is cleaned and then assembled to the lock and load mounting base. The product goes through a final inspection. Finally, the Zuka 2 rod holder is packaged and shipped out to the customer. Yak Attack continues to innovate by providing problem-solving solutions that are relevant, effective, and second to none in terms of quality and performance.
For Yak Attack, Made in Virginia is important because of the opportunity that creates for people, because of the influence that the manufacturing environment and the ability to make things has on people, the impact it has on our community, and just the jobs it creates and the satisfaction that comes from doing that. And to do it in Virginia, which is where I grew up, which is where it started, just couldn't be more satisfying.
Production funding for Made in Virginia is made possible in part by the Virginia Foundation for Public Media, supporting public media initiatives throughout Virginia, and by at Atlantic Union Bank, we believe that Made in Virginia means something special, something unique. After all, Virginia is where tradition meets technology, where hard work combines with innovation, where artisans, entrepreneurs, small businesses, and corporations take business to the next level. We're there every step of the way as champions of Virginia businesses and as a proud supporter of Made in Virginia and Virginia Public Broadcasting.